Jimmy Page came in one day when I was reading an interview I'd done. I told him I had a record out. So then he walks me upstairs to a wardrobe, brimming with guitars, hands me one. And 5 minutes later, I was jamming with Jimmy Page.
Damn.
He was good, but he wasn't as good as me.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, that's John, and it's time to get into some music. So, John, what are you going to foist onto me today in the form of a musical number?
Band are called Television Personalities.
Okay, so we're really on a streak here with bands with television. So we've got in their name, we've got television, and we've got what, television room? Is that another one that we did? And now
Yes,
television of the personality variety. Okay, all right. Let's keep a good thing going. What's the name of the track?
The Glittering Prizes.
They're always the best ones, or so they'd have you think. Okay, cool. Let me give this track a go. I certainly have no prior experience with the television personalities, so flying blind, which is pretty normal here at the Audiophiles. So yeah, I'll go off, give this thing a go, and I will come back and let you and everyone else out there know what I think.
In the past I always tried, but I never got to most of glittering prizes. I put it down to confidence, or something trendy, like an emotional complex.
Okay, really quickly before it shifts into whatever this next part is, this pretty short song. So yeah, it just kind of gallops right out of the gate on, the legs of this guitar. That's both it and the bass have this lovely, like, just plucked off the wall and plugged in sound. Like they're not manipulated or affected in any great way. They just sound so much like the unfiltered product. Uh, you know, they're not, there's no wild, crazy effects or distortion or overdrive or, you know, use of wah pedal or any of this kind of stuff. It's just really kind of stripped back, and it's got this jaunty movement to it. It almost kind of reminds me of like early 60s pop rock. Sort of this sort of free and very early uh British invasion kind of sound to it. Which I love. It's kind of an interesting thing to hear from a band that came well after that. Like I know this is ironic because this song probably came out before I was born, but there's this throwback quality to it where instead of sounding like the early 80s, it sounds like the early 60s, which I think is very interesting, and it's kind of making me smile just listening to it. So yeah, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. Let's see what this, take it back a little bit and see how it naturally goes into this next bit.
I put it down to confidence, or something trendy, like an emotional complex. Pretty soon I'm gonna change.
I like this. It's kind of pulling back, which means like launch.
Pretty soon I'm gonna change. Pretty soon I'm gonna change. You won't recognize me.
not loving the voice there, but
Glittering prizes for me. Wear a clean shirt every day. And I quite enjoy my job as an office boy.
loving the rhythms.
But the novelty begins to fade. 'Cause I'll never get the chance to play with executive toys.
Splashy cymbal work.
Pretty soon I'm gonna change. Pretty soon I'm gonna change. Pretty soon I'm gonna change. You will recognize me. Glittering prizes for me. Glittering prizes for me.
Wasn't expecting that guitar tone. Oh, not the early fade out. Ugh, there's almost this, like, I don't know, like, dancey ballroom kind of quality to that last bit. The way it moves, with that really interesting guitar sound and playing that I wasn't expecting at all, given how the guitar sounded in the whole rest of the song. Yeah, there are aspects of the song that I really found charming as hell. And then there are other aspects where I'm like, I don't really like that much. Like the delivery of the chorus, I thought was just kind of slapshot, like put together, and it didn't really sound great from a vocal delivery aspect. That's just my personal taste. And then the most interesting part of the song, that last very interesting guitar work and movement, that was over far too soon. I could have handled another 45 seconds at least of that. Just the tinkering around and the movement of it all was lovely. It's just too short lived for my liking. And it only, I mean, I hit pause there at 2:58. There wasn't much else happening. We were pretty much done. This song could have stood to go for, it could have pushed the boundaries of the 3:40 marker, and been perfectly fine. But yeah, this was a lovely little listen with only a couple hiccups here and there that, I'm sure I can get over. I would definitely listen to this again. Um, I tend to, because there are things in the song that I'm intrigued about. This idea that, to me, it sounds like something that came out 20 years before it. Um, I mean, that's no real revelation. That happens in music all the time. God, some of the music I listen to or am a biggest fan of is overtly trying to tap into a sound that predates the period that it was released. So I kind of like that. I don't, because this is before my time, and it's tapping into a sound different from what I was just alluding to with the stuff I listen to. It's just kind of fun and interesting to see that it kind of, that method is universal. It can happen whenever and tap into whatever time before it. Yeah, I really did enjoy this. The lyrical content seemed interesting. It seemed like the kind of person who lives this monotonous, kind of cut and paste the day's lifestyle, maybe like lower middle class, something about working and, the living the office life, without a lot of like interesting things unfolding. It can get kind of old and, like I said, monotonous, and you're looking for like more of a glittery lifestyle with more intrigue, and stuff happening, and it just gets kind of dull living this lifestyle, which I mean, I think we can all, at least most of us, can relate to. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed giving this thing a go, and I'd love to learn more about this act and this song. Maybe my if to see if my assumed meaning is anywhere near the ballpark. But yeah, there's only one way to do that, and that's getting back to John. So let's see what he has to say.
Gene King, he's back. So, you've had to listen to the glittering prizes by television personalities. What say you?
Well, I say that the song gallops out of the gate on the legs of a wonderfully unaffected electric guitar chord progression, and it is soon joined by its bass counterpart. Both of these instruments have this plucked off the wall and plugged right in sound to them. No real manipulation to their sound, just kind of plug and play. And I like that. It's kind of refreshing to hear like the instrument just as it is without all these added frills. Don't get me wrong, I'm a sucker for added frills. I really do love them. But this is always nice too. So I enjoyed it. It kind of made me smile. The drums come in all splashy and upbeat, and now that these parts have kind of coalesced to form the song proper, I'm getting shades of like early 60s pop rock, which I didn't think I was going to get, but pleasantly surprised. And it's not just the music that gives me this feeling, it's the production of it as well. It seems to have this kind of throwback quality to it that sounds of a bygone era, even for a song that was released like 35 years ago. I know this is an early 80s track, but it sounds like an early 60s track. But how many times have we listened to an early aughts track that sounded like a late 70s track or something like that? So that this happens. It's just for me to hear this being this nod to a past era or genre from a time before I was even born is kind of like fun to listen to and hear unfold. So I really enjoyed the first shift to the pre-chorus where things draw inward a bit. And from that, the bass then blossoms, and we're now into the chorus, which actually, once fully formed, has this sort of slipshod nature to it. But it's kind of charming in its own way. I'm just not a huge fan of the voice doesn't is far from perfect during this portion of the song for my ear. So maybe the weakest part of the song is the chorus for me. By the time the second verse comes along, I'm fully focused on this rhythm section. And I gotta say that with it, like the tight rolls and the splashy cymbal work of the drums, coupled with this rollicking bass line, I'm becoming a big fan. It really does sound great. There's something quirky to me about how they sound, not musically, but tonally. Um, and the more I listen, the more I think that it's kind of intentional that it has this sound. We get treated to another pre-chorus that has this slightly kind of the pre-chorus acts as like this tightening spring coil effect that ensures the music is poised and taut and then ready to launch into the chorus, which of course it does. Again, the vocal delivery of the refrain sounds imperfect and a bit off, which is funny, though not exactly easy listening for me. Um, Even down to like the not even the lyrics, but the vocalizing of like the ooze or whatever was going on there was even like a bit of a rocky road. And then the song completely changes pace around the 220 marker, and it shifts into this almost like the movement of it had this like ballroom kind of dance motif to it in a weird way. With some lovely guitar that sounds nothing like its tone sounds nothing like that sort of primitive electric guitar like Leo Fender just plugged it in sound that this now has, which is really odd, but I'm loving it. Um, and so yeah, this lovely guitar is working in tandem with the bass to add some color and flair to the sound. Unfortunately, it begins to fade just as I'm falling in love with it, and far too soon for my liking, and the song then devolves into silence. So the song was an interesting listen. It really was. The irony of calling something that predates my own existence a throwback isn't lost on me. And yet bits of this song reminded me of music that came from the early 60s rather than the early 80s. And it had this innocence to the sound, and the stripped back production of it, which really both contribute to that feeling. As far as the lyrical content is concerned, it sounds like someone who is like ready to burst free of the monotony of stereotypical lower middle class living. The narrator wants to break these chains of cut and paste days that seemingly press on like a conveyor belt and indulge in the glamorous, let's say, glittering lifestyle he sees and is pined for from afar, but never experienced. Overall, I enjoyed several aspects of the song, with my only gripes being the brevity of that ending bit, which was the most interesting portion of the song for me, and the chorus that to me sounded a bit thrown together with little effort invested into it. But I'd love to learn more about this. There are definitely far more redeeming qualities to this track than there are. I mean, even my gripe about the ending part not being long enough is just to underscore how good it sounded and how much I wish it lasted longer. So yeah, really my only gripe about the approach is just the vocals during the chorus, which didn't sound great to me. But tell me more, my friend.
So these people are, and well, this person is the definition of a cult band. They really are. Really interesting. There's a lot. I will try and condense it in. So,
Okay.
formed in London in 1977, the Television Personalities are an English band led by singer-songwriter Dan Treacy. Their varied, volatile, and long career encompasses post-punk, neo-psychedelia, and indie pop, with 7 current members and 12 past members. The only constant has been Treacy's presence and his songwriting. So he was inspired to form the band after hearing the Sex Pistols and Jonathan Richman, friend of the channel. Ever unconventional, Treacy said he was not that much interested in music, and the band rarely rehearsed. Treacy did not prepare set lists for live performances, preferring to keep the band on their toes. Past member Joey Head remembers us rehearsing once late in 1983. We did another one 5 years later, and that's about it. The band struggled to find a name, and early suggestions included the names of mainstream and often ridiculed television hosts such as Nicholas Parsons, Russell Harty, Bruce Forsyth, and Huey Green, before they decided on the more generic and pointed television personalities. Their first single, 14th Floor, was released in January 1978 to critical acclaim, and it was followed by the 78 EP, Where's Bill Grundy Now? The famous TV host who's clashed with the Pistols, which brought them popular attention. The EP features their lone chart hit, the seminal Part-Time Punks, which was written while Treacy was 17. With the financial backing of his mother, Treacy hand-pressed 500 copies of Where's Bill Grundy Now, each with a photocopy sleeve, which he sent to various record companies and radio DJs. The track was picked up by BBC's John Peel. Treacy said, Peel loved it, but my mum was hassling me to pay the money back. So he grew up in a blue-collar household in the increasingly posh area of Chelsea, London. His father did road work and his mother ran a laundrette. Through her shop and around the hip thoroughfare of King's Road, young Treacy met Bob Marley, Malcolm McLaren, and Jimmy Page. Interning as an adolescent at Led Zeppelin's Swan Song Records, his mum, who washed the clothes of the community's ascendant bohemians, got him the gig. Treacy said, Jimmy Page came in one day when I was reading an interview I'd done. I told him I had a record out. So then he walks me upstairs to a wardrobe, brimming with guitars, hands me one, and 5 minutes later, I was jamming with Jimmy Page.
Damn.
He was good, but he wasn't as good as me. The television personality, so they released a load more singles and EPs and bits and bobs, and they collaborated with other people under different names and that sort of thing. So they finally got their shit together and released their first album, and don't the kids just love it, in 1981, and there it is there. It set the template for the subsequent career, sort of neo-psychedelia, married to an obsession with youth culture, particularly the 1960s. So, personnel: Dan Tracy, vocals, guitar, and main songwriter; Ed Ball, bass; and Mark Shepherd, drums. Now, Mark Shepherd, he played with Robin Hitchcock, Hanoi Rocks, and Light a Big Fire, an Irish band who supported U2 on the Joshua Tree tour. He stepped back from music when his alcohol and drug habit took over. After getting clean, he went into acting. You may recognise him from the part of the demon Crowley in the TV series Supernatural. He's also the lawyer Romo Lampkin in Battlestar Galactica. He also appeared in Leverage, Doom Patrol, and Firefly. So he's a diminutive sort of guy. He usually has a Scottish accent, black hair, bit sort of rough around the edges.
Yeah.
That's who you heard playing the drums.
Okay,
Unbelievable.
gotcha.
Unbelievable.
It is.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. So, reviewing the album, all music. The songs predict both the C86 aesthetic of simple songs played with a minimum elaboration, but a maximum of enthusiasm and earnestness, and the later lo-fi aesthetic. The echoey, hissy production makes the song sound as if the band were playing at the bottom of an empty swimming pool, recorded with a single microphone located 2 houses away. Yet somehow that adds to the homemade charm of the record. This album must have sounded hopelessly amateurish and cheaply ramshackle at the time of its 1981 release. But in retrospect, it is clearly a remarkably influential album that holds up extremely well. Record Collector, 5 stars out of 5, not 10. They said one of the most influential indie bands of the 80s and 90s, successfully blending psychedelia with lo-fi pop and folk. This sparse, sensitive, almost fragile debut album is enhanced by the basic recording techniques, making it tremendously quirky, but combined with emotionally revealing lyrics, equally impressive. And for give it 9.5 out of 10. A feat of 3-piece economy, chock-a-block with relentless hooks and poignant lyrics. In just 37 minutes, the record paved the way from post-punk to indie rock, hauling passe sounds from the 1960s into uncharted lo-fi terrain. The sound, cleverness, fragility, and frankness snowballed through the music. This Tracy's narrative masterpiece, his most potent rock record, and the last time he cast his burgeoning personal struggles in the rosy light of youth. And don't the kids just love it? It's shot through with the simultaneous joys of discovery and simplicity. Unmistakable evidence of the kid genius behind it. Almost every track is a clinic in verse, chorus, verse tension. Tracy's guitar lines can be brilliantly tentative. Each bum note in the solo that ends the glittering prizes is like a nervous tick in an articulate monologue. So yeah, the lyrics. In the past, I've always tried, but I never got amongst the glittering prizes. I put it down to confidence or something trendy like an emotional complex. Pretty soon I'm going to change. You won't recognize me. Glittering prizes for me. I wear a clean shirt every day. I quite enjoy my job as an office boy, but the novelty begins to fade because I never got the chance to play with executive toys. But pretty soon I'm going to change. You won't recognize me. Glittering prizes for me. So there you go. Just a little thing here. This is from the inserts. I'll read this out to you. So it was released on Fire Records in 1981. It was recorded in 1980. And this says here, Coventry, 1978. This is written by Clive Solomon, who is the head of Fire Records. He wrote this in June 1990. Coventry, 1978. Punk rock was shaking up our sleepy campus from its Fleetwood Mac and Pink Floyd albums, and students reforming their own punk bands. We spent our grant money putting out a single by the VIPs and glued our ears to the radio waiting for John Peel to play it. Alongside magazines shot by both sides and let the legally Dire Straits songs a swing, the VIPs, I believe, became a Peel show favourite. One night, Peel played a white label of 14th Floor and read out a letter from a self-described television personality, Nicholas Parsons, asking for someone to please release their record properly. I wrote to Peel the very next day asking him to forward my letter to the enigmatic Mr. Parsons. The hoped-for response never arrived. Later that year, we'd all moved down to London and the VIPs were playing at the Chelsea drugstore. Someone comes up and says, "Hello, I'm Nicholas Parsons. Sorry I never replied to your letter. That was very rude of me. Actually, we were very chuffed to get it. Have a copy of our new single, Part-Time Punks, and by the way, you can call me Dan now." 12 years on, assorted mop-pop bands are riding high in the charts. The 60s pop revival is well and truly upon us, and the kids just love it. Those television personality records are still the original article. Obviously, he's writing that in 1990, Stone Roses, etc.
Yeah.
And it was recorded in 1980 at Mount Pleasant on a 4-track, the album. So that's why it sounds so basic. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
a
was really sweet.
lot of things that you just read off were confirming my experience listening to this, so I feel a little bit validated there because, yeah, it was very interesting to hear something from '81 sound like it was from '61, and the production quality and even the tones of the guitar and the bass were a bit primitive for the instruments and where we are now.
I mean, I guess you had a little bit of it with the soft voice, but it was quite rare because 1980 was the dawn of a new age, and not
That's
many people were looking
yeah.
back. They were all
Everybody
pressing
wanted
forwards.
Yeah, everybody wanted the new technology and
Yeah.
the new synth sounds and all this stuff. And here's this little pocket of musicians going, now, wait a minute. They were doing some pretty cool shit back in 60, between 60 and 65.
Right, to continue the story, for their second album, Television Personalities formed their own record label called Wham Records, which continues until 1984. Lawsuit with George Michael kind of finished that off. After 3 albums, the personnel began to change on a regular basis. Following 1984's The Painted World album, the band were hired to support Pink Floyd guitarist David Gilmour on the tour for his solo album About Face, but they were fired when they performed their song, which is from this album, I Know Where Syd Barrett Lives, during which Tracy read out Barrett's real address on stage. Tracy later struggled with mental health issues and drug addiction, and from 1998 to June 2004, he was incarcerated for theft at Her Majesty's pleasure. He spent time on the prison ship HMS Weir in Portland Harbour, Dorset. 2 years later, on his release, his 2006 comeback album, My Dark Places, received widespread critical acclaim, including the single Velvet Underground. The Enemy described it as a stunningly original record, harrowing and hilarious in equal amounts. While the BBC wrote that the album captures the offbeat brilliance that made the two television personalities indie legends in the 70s and 80s, captured by Tracy's endearing slapdash attitude towards singing in tune and playing in time. Unfortunately, he was reportedly seriously ill in October 2011 following brain surgery to remove a blood clot. He regained consciousness in December but remained hospitalized. By 2016, he was recovering from the surgery and said that he needed to return to music. In 2018, Fire Records released the long-lost Beautiful Despair as the band's 12th album. It had been recorded in 1990 on a 4-track, but had not been released at that time. According to biographer Benjamin Burton, in 2022, the 60-year-old singer Tracy was still residing in a nursing home where he has limited mobility, impaired vision, and some memory loss. So it doesn't sound like he's ever coming back. Fair enough. So just despite very, very minor commercial success, the television personalities are really, really high regarded by critics and have been widely influential, especially on the C86 generation, which we've spoken about before, this thing that happened for the Enemy tape in the UK. And of the many bands that signed to Creation Records, Alan McGee said that after seeing television personalities, it inspired him to start his own record label. And the bands that have cited them as a major influence include Jesus the Mary Chain, Half Man Half Biscuit, The Pastels, who signed to Wham Records, Beat Happening, Tindersticks, Pavement, and MGMT. So yeah, the guy has a legacy. Tracy's unconventional but dryly witty and culture-infused lyrics have led to his reputation as a seminal and iconic figure within the independent music scene. In 2006, music critic Cam Lindsay described Tracy as having recorded some of the most bizarre, unlistenable, and brilliant pop songs in the last 3 decades. And I kind of that sums up the whole different aspects of him at once. So yeah, this is a cult stuff. I thought this is quite an interesting song. It's not perhaps the most famous or whatever, but I thought it's a little glimpse into this sort of life. And I think the lo-fi, I really like this song. It's this charm about it, you know. It could have been done in someone's bedroom quite easily, you know, and that's what draws me to it. It's that DIY nature that sprung out of punk. You know, this is as much to do with punk as you know, as my a pair of socks, but it's the attitude and how they did it. It's just sprung out from the punk, not the music itself. So yeah, really interesting band, really interesting character, and yeah, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, cool. All right, I shall wrap things up. Thanks very much for listening to this, Andy.
Thank you.
Folks out there, tell us what you think. I'm sure there are some fans of television personalities and the wide range of stuff they did. Please hit the like button if you do like this. I think it's probably going to need all the help it gets. And drop some comments because we'd love to hear from you. I'm sure there's lots more stories about Mr. Tracy. So, yeah, have at you. Come on, let's hear them. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really do appreciate everybody who does support the channel. We're doing our head this small, moving on up. So, yeah, please, more the merrier. That being said, thanks so much for watching. And we'll see all of you on the next episode of The Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.